What's going on, everyone? So, based on reports that are coming out, it looks like Lauri Markkanen is expected to sign a new extension with the Utah Jazz by August 6th. The reason for August 6th, you may have seen that number kind of be thrown around, or that date being thrown around, is because that is the earliest that he can sign, and they could still trade him around the trade deadline. If he signs after that, then they'd have to keep him the whole year, which doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing, right? Because if he does sign a new extension, then chances are, no, he's probably going to want to stick around. That's what the reports are saying. But here's what the word is. I would expect him to sign on August 7th or after August 6th, Jones said from Hoops Hype. Lauri doesn't want to be traded. So if he signs the renegotiation and extension, which I expect him to do, I expect him to do it after August 6th, so there's no trade talk this year. So again, if it's signed after August 6th, the 7th is what Jones saying from Hoopsite, if that ends up happening, then they would not be able to trade Lauri Markkanen this season, which that could be very impactful for a couple teams, right? Lauri Markkanen to the Golden State Warriors is something that has been heavily discussed, heavily talked about. The Warriors have pushed very hard to try to acquire Lauri Markkanen. They've been the most active team as far as trying to acquire Lauri Markkanen. They've had these back and forths. The Warriors don't really seem like they want to give up what is necessary in order to get Lauri Markkanen. They kind of want to get Lauri Markkanen based on their kind of package, which is like Moses Moody and a bunch of picks, where the Utah Jazz, they want a Kuminga or they want a Pod. They want guys like that, where the Warriors want to keep those guys because they were so significant and important as far as the rotation goes. So it's looking, based on the information that keeps coming out, like Lauri Markkanen is more likely than not going to stay with the Utah Jazz. Now, obviously, something can always develop. Something can come out of left field. The Golden State Warriors, as we approach that August 6th deadline, it's very possible that they just go, you know what, we got to make a push now. We got to go and really just give up Kuminga, whatever we got to do. We got to land Lauri Markkanen, because if he signs that extension, well, then that's it. Hopes for Lauri Markkanen is dead, at least this season. So I could see things really start to ramp up in the next week as we get days from that extension talk. Another team is the San Antonio Spurs. San Antonio Spurs are a team that has been linked to Lauri Markkanen, that they're willing and trying to offer a package centered around Keldon Johnson and draft picks. Do the Spurs kind of start ramping stuff up and try to maybe make a push for a Lauri Markkanen? Do they really kind of just say, hey, like, this is our opportunity, this is our chance, especially if like the Warriors bow out? Do the Spurs go, okay, let's go land Lauri Markkanen? And then also, if you're the Jazz, right, is the plan really to keep him long term? Right? Because if you're going to give him that new extension and sign him, yes, you can always trade him next year or later on, but it's easier to trade him now because his contract is so cheap. Right? So teams are more willing to give up the farm because there's just more teams that can get involved in a potential Lauri Markkanen trade. Where if you sign him to a new extension, he's making $40+ million a year. Well, then now at that point, there's very few teams, if any, that can really go after Lauri Markkanen and have to get him. The idea is that you trade for Lauri Markkanen. Now you have his bird right now. You're the one giving him that extension, and he's just sticking around long term with the team. And Lauri Markkanen, he wants to stay in Utah, right? So if that's true, and he really does, right, does Utah kind of oblige him? Does Utah go, hey, if this is really where you want to be, this is really where you want to stay, then fine. We'll re-sign you, we'll stick you around, right? Does he sign the contract extension before? Do they maybe work it out and go, hey, we'll give you the new extension, but we want you to sign it before the 6th, just in case something develops? But again, if Lauri Markkanen, if he doesn't want to be traded, because based on the report, the idea is Lauri Markkanen would sign on the 7th or later. Because if he signs on the 7th or later, then he can't be traded this year, right? And that he wants to kind of stay out of trade talks, at least this year, because once you get to the trade deadline, all of a sudden, guess what's going to happen? All of the trade conversations, all of the trade rumors, everything centered around Lauri Markkanen are once again going to be on the horizon, which again could be a problem for Utah. Because if Utah can't get a deal done, then they might be stuck with him for another year, right? And again, what happens if they can't unload him? He doesn't have the best injury history. On top of not having the best injury history, he's a guy that is now going to be making 40 plus million. I mean, it's just, do Utah try to start pushing harder for Lauri Markkanen to be traded, right? Before they have to end up paying him, a bunch of money to keep him around, right? Like, look, Danny Ainge, if he believes that somebody is more valuable in a trade than for the future, then he's going to trade him, right? So if he doesn't look at Lauri Markkanen as like a real future piece, and he looks at Lauri Markkanen as a guy that, is just kind of momentarily, then he's probably going to do whatever he can to trade him, right? And I know, like, there's rumors and talks about, like, Utah really wants him and all that stuff. I mean, what are you supposed to say? Nah, get this guy off our team. Like, no, like, you're in negotiations. You're working on trades. Like, of course you're supposed to say, like, nah, we want to keep him long term. We don't want to trade him, right? Like, but hey, if we have to, if we get a blown away deal, like an offer that just makes too much sense, then yeah, like, it just, there's questions about, just the seriousness about how badly do they want to keep him. Right? Now, that doesn't mean that they're just going to give him away. I want to make that clear. That doesn't mean that Utah's just going to be like, fine, just give us a second. Just match salaries and give us a second round pick. No, like, they're still going to want a significant package, right? They're still going to want multiple firsts and all of that. But it is one of those things where if you can, even if you have to drop your price slightly, right? Like, take the Warriors trade. Even if you have to, instead of Kuminga or Pod, right? If you could get a Moses Moody and, like 4 firsts or something like that, like, if he's not a guy that you really believe is your long-term future, why keep him around? Why not just take all the picks and take Moses Moody, who's a nice young talent that you could help grow and develop and, maybe be a piece for now in the future, or it could always be a trade chip later on down the road, whatever, right? Like, Utah's going to have to make as big of a decision as everyone else is, right? This is a significant time for everybody, all parts, not just, a team like the Sun or the Spurs or the Golden State Warriors. This is huge for a team like the Utah Jazz as well. But everything should be coming to a head soon. We're going to find, and we'll see what happens with Lauri Markkanen, if he will be one of those people that end up getting traded, ends up getting moved. If so, is it the Golden State Warriors? Is it the San Antonio Spurs? Is it another team that kind of comes out of the woodworks and ends up swooping in on a Lauri Markkanen? It's going to be a good indicator based on when he signs. Right? Like, if he signs on the 6th or before the 6th, then like, okay, then he's open and Utah potentially looks to trade him, later on down the road. However, if he ends up signing that extension on the 7th or longer or after, then now it's like, okay, clearly he wants to make sure that he's not traded, at least this season. Obviously, chances are you're probably right back in the situation come the off season, right? Like, this time next year, you're probably in the Lauri Markkanen potential trade scenario. But it'll also be interesting to see what his market is this time next year, if there even is one. Or if Utah even tries to trade him. Maybe Utah, if they secure Lauri Markkanen long term, maybe they end up looking to kind of upgrade the roster. And maybe try to go, okay, well, fine, we got this piece now, he's 27, let's start making some moves here, start making some strides, because, you don't want to just have him on the team just to have him on the team, right? You got to kind of pick a lane, pick a direction. But, again, however you feel, whatever your thoughts are, I'd love to hear it, so let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. Helps me enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.